Action. Hey you, welcome to the Movies and Melanin podcast, where I talk about the good, the bad, and the great of movies. If this is your first time here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, elementary, my dear Watson, elementary. I am your host, Vershana McKendrick, and on today's show, we have the one and only Mark Dwayne Hodges II in the house. By day, he's your friendly neighborhood security guard, but when the lights dim and the screens flicker to life, Mark is all about diving headfirst into the magical world of movies. For Mark, movies aren't just entertainment, they're full sensory experiences that can transport you to a whole nother world, engaging all of your senses. Welcome, Mark!
Thank you for having me, Vershana. How you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to get this started.
Oh, yeah? All right, so today we are talking about 21 Bridges, starring our favorite Chadwick Boseman, who we love, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
We love Chadwick Boseman. We have Irish film and television director Brian Kirk. He's known for directing a couple episodes of Game of Thrones, Dexter, and Luther. Overall, the movie's about uncovering a massive conspiracy. An embattled NYPD detective joins a citywide manhunt for two young cop killers. As the night unfolds, he soon becomes unsure who to pursue and who is in pursuit of him. Overall, the movie received a 54 on Rotten Tomatoes, but it received a 91% audience score. So knowing all that, how did you feel going into the movie?
Well, going into the movie, when I first watched it, it was when it first came out. I think I went to the theaters to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember it. I know it was good,
Okay.
but I don't remember it when I watched it in theaters. So when you asked me to rewatch the movie, and I was looking at it last night, I was like, okay, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
Audience score, it makes sense. 94, you said?
Yeah, it's like a 91.
91.
Yeah.
So it definitely it captivates the audience. It's a good movie that tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
But when we break it down, the Rotten Tomato score, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I agree, because first time watching it, I watched it on a family trip with a friend, with the family, obviously, and one of the cousins was like, we should watch this movie. I love this movie. Okay, 21 Bridges, never heard anything about it, and I think we watched it in 2022. It came out in 2019. So I'm like, okay, I hadn't heard anything about it, so is it that good? So when watching it, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. I'm not mad about it. The second time, once I got past the shock of it all, once I got past the excitement and finished feeding off the room's energy, because of course, if all of us enjoy it,
Right.
it's going to be an enjoyable experience.
Right.
But watching it by myself and like watching the story again, it just didn't hit as hard.
I get that.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to get back into that when it comes to the cinematography and all, because that's a big factor into why I did and did not give it certain stars. For sure.
Makes sense.
So when it comes to characters we identify with, I feel like I identify with Detective Andre specifically, but for you, I'm definitely giving you Mike.
I'm most definitely Mike.
Definitely
because
giving you Mike.
I'm that detailed,
oriented man. I don't think you understand. When that scene happened, he's like, yeah, he's one of them detail oriented mother effers.
Yo, I love it when fools strike gold but don't know the market price.
50 keys cuts into 200. Going rate for a cut key in Manhattan is 32 G's. That means after $1 million to us, that's still 5.4 million for you.
He is one of those detail-oriented.
I don't think I was like, that is so Mark, because it was math specifically.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you cut this and then do this times this, the Roman numerals, and the division. Is I'm like, that is so Mark in a regular conversation. I don't understand.
Yeah, like when he was talking about the numbers and he was adding it up and he was talking about 50 keys and then it's like 32 is on the street and then this is pure, so it's 94%. I was like, oh, that's me.
See, the thing is, you knew the exact numbers in the scene. That's how I know that was you. That's how I know that was you.
I don't know, what can I say? I like numbers.
Exactly. But do you think Detective Andre lines up with me, or who do you think I would be?
I think Detective Andre definitely lines up with you in a sense that he's precise, and when he's smart about his decisions, right? So he doesn't make a decision without a thought of like, okay, what could happen, what could not happen, right? When they were talking about when he went to IA and one of the cops, they made a remark that said, you know, I thought you were the guy who kills the cop killers, right? And he said they always shot first.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's you in a sense that like you definitely have a plan, right? And then like you stick to that plan, and then like if something happens, then like you have a plan B, a plan C.
Correct.
You know how to navigate, and like you make that decision, and you know the consequences of said decision.
Correct. All he was missing was the PDF files. That's all he was missing.
That's all he was missing is the PDF files, to be honest.
Correct. And it was funny. I think he was always intentional with his words and intentional with his actions, because there are moments, and I don't want to get too far into the review, but there are moments where he would like step back from people and step behind people. And like the further he did that, the more he did that, the further he was getting out of the situation. And I'm like, I love when you speak with body language. I love that for you. Yeah. That is very me. But I know we want to probably get into the review, and we should probably go ahead and get started. So with the critique, we go with the halves that were good, the halves that were bad, and the halves that were memorable. So with the good, I gave a 1/2 star to attraction, acting, editing, sound, and theme. What did you give 1/2 stars to?
So I gave a 1/2 star to attraction, theme, plot, dialogue.
Oh.
And editing.
Okay. Yeah, plot and dialogue, we're going to have to talk about that, because I gave it I didn't give it stars instantly for certain things. So I'm actually really excited to talk about those with you. But I guess let's talk about the ones we agree on first. So attraction, you said, yes?
Yes.
So what about it was attractive? Like, what about the movie kept you entertained?
It was actually entertaining. It was very entertaining. When you start off with a movie, at the very beginning, you see the scene of the little boy crying. Immediately, I'm involved in the story. Why are you crying?
Yeah.
We're at a funeral.
Yeah.
Whose funeral? Okay, somebody that's close to him, his dad. And then when it starts to tell he was killed in the line of duty, and then he became a cop, and you see him sitting in internal affairs. All right, why is he sitting in internal affairs? You know, why is he sitting in IA? Oh, because he's got this amount of bodies in the last previous years. Okay. Right? So essentially he's getting revenge. So then, you know, we cut to
that's what it's portrayed to be.
Portrayed to be, right, exactly. So then we cut to the scene where you see the guys, they're going to go get the keys, going to go get the the cocaine, and it's not what it's looking like, right? So like you're thinking you're about to steal 30 keys, and there's 300.
Correct.
Right? That's already gonna throw your game plan off, right? And then the way they were thinking in the movie, and how they broke it down of like, okay, they can't go here because of this, they can't go here because of that, right? They can't go here, so where are they gonna go? Correct. Manhattan. Yeah. All right. So then they made the decision to shut down all 21 bridges. So that's where you get the name 21 Bridges from.
Which is creative, very creative.
Which is creative, right? And I don't know if you saw, but when they were, it was like a transition scene where they had views of all the bridges.
Yes. Yeah.
How you gonna do this? There are 21 bridges in and out of Manhattan. Shut them down. 3 rivers, close them. 4 tunnels, block them. Stop every train that leaves the island. Amtrak, PATH, New Jersey Transit, LIRR, Metro North, and loop the subways. Then, we flood the island with blue.
Yes. Yeah.
And I counted them. I counted them, the bridges, the tunnels, all the exit ways and entryways into Manhattan. They showed them.
At one point, yeah.
At one point. And so with that being said, like that's just captivating. Like, okay, so now they're in the city.
Yeah.
Now we got to flush them out.
Yeah.
Right? They got nowhere to go. They can't run. They can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just flush them out.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they portrayed it, because it was basically a robbery gone wrong.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mistakes bound to happen.
Yeah.
So with Michael and Ray, when they're on the run,
Mm-hmm.
you feel that anticipation when they're trying to, like, okay, we need to move this. Now they get to the drug dealer, and then they're trying to get rid of the coke and get the money, but they don't. Now they got the same weight in money, but not in coke.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're, we're trying to get out of here. How do we get out of here? They get to the guy that had the flash drives.
Yeah.
And it's building intensity, right?
Correct.
Like, how, all right, they about to get caught. They about to get caught. And that's the attraction to me. Like, okay, that was really excellent in how they set the scene, and then they brought all the cops from the different precincts to help with this manhunt.
Yeah.
So that right there in itself, and then that the dirty precinct essentially at the end was the 8-5.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny. At least for me, when it comes to attraction, I also kind of use that as synonymous for entertainment. The entertainment value was there because the entire time, I'm not a horror movie person. I'm just not. I enjoy the occasional thriller like The Purge. I enjoy Get Out. Like, I enjoy thrillers. I don't enjoy horror. For me, when it comes to a good thriller, I want to hold my breath the entire movie.
right.
And once they closed all 21 bridges, and they established that perimeter, and it was just slowly creeping in. Every time they showed a timestamp, creeping in. And then they finally got them. Like, that element of pacing, those elements of storytelling, all of that kind of creating that slowly creeping perimeter, closing it in.
Yeah.
That's hard to do with a movie that's an hour and 39 minutes. That is very hard to do in such a short amount of time. So the fact they were able to get that done in an hour 30 practically and do it successfully was why it was really entertaining to me and very attractive to me. Like I said, I there was nothing I could do. Like, the entire time I was literally on the edge of the couch, like, okay, who's dying now? Wait, don't shoot Chadwick now. Don't you shoot Chadwick, because then we're gonna have a problem. If you shoot
Right.
Chadwick Boseman on screen, we're going to have a problem. So I mean, it was really good that way. So it's funny because he was definitely in his Sherlock Holmes bag. I'm not gonna lie.
He definitely was.
He was definitely in his Sherlock Holmes bags. I know this kind of teeter-totters into acting, but it was like the way he was asking questions, and everyone was basically like Mike had said, you're the only cop that asks questions first, shoots later, the entire night. And I'm just like, yes, that's what makes him stand out. He was just so different. Like, his character was attractive, and it caused the movie to keep going and was entertaining because of Chadwick's character, Andre. 100%.
100%. I love that his character was able to stand out and differentiate from the other characters, other cops, essentially, within the movie.
Correct. And he was the only one who had IA on his behind. And again, he had all that and still decided to think first, shoot later, which is really interesting. And it's funny. So once we kind of get into the theme of the movie, we kind of see him struggling, or the struggle of two things for me, which was virtue and value, which was practically talking about the hypocrisy and greed as the downfall. But I don't know if it was necessarily greed, because it was a need which created a downfall, which is why I didn't enjoy the plot for that reason, but because that gets a little muddled.
Who's greed?
But that's what I'm saying. So when it comes to themes, there's main categories and subcategories. There's a subcategory called greed as a downfall. So I'm like, yes, but it was also a need, technically, question mark, that I want to be on the team. I want to like them because they were poor and they were getting divorces. And I'm like, okay, so I guess that's the downfall technically, because it caused them down the road of moving drugs for money, you know.
Right.
And that overall, that is wrong. So that's what I'm saying. It goes into virtue versus value. The second part for me was also social, because it's power and corruption. Because again, you all, and NYPD has all this power. You're the police force. Those red and blue lights mean a lot.
They do.
And for it to fall and become corrupt because of limited funds, it like I said, it handled those themes beautifully throughout the movie for me.
And in terms of the social and the corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
even Detective Andre said at the end that can't be on the badge.
Correct.
You
Blood
know,
can't be on the badge.
the
Yep.
blood can't be on the badge.
Yeah.
Right. So if you got dirty cops, right? You're running a precinct. You know they're dirty.
Yeah.
You got to do everything in your power to make sure that you know that they're good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know times are hard. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do for your family.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you took an oath to serve and protect.
Mm-hmm.
How can you serve and protect if you're serving and protecting the criminals? Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. And it's funny because I brought you on this episode for specifically, number one, because of your military experience. And on
Right.
top of that, you are a dad. So I think you can provide an insight that a lot of people don't have on this movie. So like as a dad with that military background, what does this movie do for you in that sense?
With the military background, to me, it means that like if I was down on my luck, I'd probably do anything I could to make sure my daughter was okay.
Yeah.
Right? To make sure my wife is okay. And even if that goes to extent of having to use my military background and skills, robbing, stealing, shooting, as long as my family is okay, as long as they're taken care of, I couldn't care where the money came from.
As long as it came.
As long as it came. Now, yes, I do try to do the right thing because I have that value.
Yeah.
I have that virtue within me.
Yeah.
But if it came down to it, if I had to rob somebody, I probably would.
Yeah, because I 100% believe that. Of course, I don't think every cop at the precinct, like they said, every cop that was there
Right.
was not a dirty cop. They just wrong place, wrong time.
Of course not.
But I do feel like when he had mentioned in his first, I think, 3 months there, 2 funerals.
Yeah.
And not because they were in the field, two funerals because they chose to take their life type thing.
Yeah.
And as a leader, I can understand why you're like, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure my men and women on my force that are under me get their needs met, because there's no reason that you're protecting and putting your lives on the line on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
and you can't pay rent. That does not make sense.
And I understand that concept because basically, like, if you're in the police, right? If you're in a precinct and you're with other police officers, if you're in the military, you have a band of brothers, essentially, right? You have people that have your back. You got their back. You got each other's six. You look out for each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of civilians don't truly comprehend what it's like to be in the fire.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of civilians don't truly comprehend what it's like when you're downrange and you got shots flying over your head, or you're at a robbery and you're taking bullet for the guy next to you.
Yeah.
They can't truly comprehend that, and because of this movie, I believe you can understand that, even though it's morally wrong that they were dirty and moving drugs, but you can tell that they had each other's back.
Yeah.
Right? Like the detectives that went up to the club and they shot the guy. They're angry. They're hurt because 8 of their officers got killed. So they got their back.
Correct.
And that's why I gave it a half point for the theme, because I can understand that aspect of the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was relatable on both sides. So that's why I'm like, okay, I understand. And in the scheme of storytelling, it's it's a little boring in the span of storytelling because we've seen that before.
Right.
We've seen the dirty cops, so I had to do it for my family. We've seen it before. But for this story in particular, it was understandable.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, we're moving drugs. People died, but family. So it just depends on what you like and what you don't like. I know the last thing we shared in our review for Good Stars was editing, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk about editings, because for me, in movies lately, pacing has been an issue for me, where we're either moving way too fast or moving way too slow, or it's like the roller coaster mindset where it's like tick, 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 zoom, tick, 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 zoom. And I'm like, that, you can't. Those are the uncomfortable roller coasters where it's like, I want to get off. It's not fun anymore. I want to go. It's not fun anymore. With this one, the pacing was nice for me.
Okay.
It was hold your breath. It was edge of your seat.
It was.
But it gave it enough time to breathe. And I think that worked a lot, because when I watch a movie twice, the first time, watch it normally. Have my notes in front of me, watching, writing. The second time I watch it 2 ways. I either watch it completely mute and I just watch the visuals, no audio, or I watch it on 1 or 2 times speed. And I'm like, when you fast forward something, or when you increase the speed, normally you kind of lose the audio, you kind of lose the impact of the audio. However, I had to double check at one point because the score was moving so slow, was moving so consistently. When I fast forwarded it, or when I changed the speed, the consistency of the track stayed, if that makes sense. And of course, when they started talking, they talked faster. But the consistency of the soundtrack remained. And something like that allows the tension to rise. It allows the emotions to sit for a while. And a lot of movies haven't been doing that recently. So I definitely gave it I appreciated the editing in this movie.
I think the editing was exceptional for me, because it was able to build that story. Like you said, you can see when the cops that showed up to the restaurant, right? Mastos, I think it was. He knocked like a Jehovah's Witness, and they said that in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? And when I first saw that, or when I just rewatched that and I saw that, I'm like, oh, they're not here to check up. They're here for a meetup or something that's not right. Right? So like you could see that build up, right? So you see the cop, he knocks, right? And then Ray, he's shooting at the cops, right? And then first mess up, it's like a build up. The first mess up, I think, was the car that they drove in, the getaway car. Who's driving a Beamer, right? And they mentioned that in the movie. And I'm thinking like, yo, if I'm moving coke, I'm not driving a Beamer.
Correct.
Right? Then the cops showed up. That was unplanned, right? And then they ran the red light. So that was another mistake. And so you see how it's just slowly building, right? And when you edit that and you compile all those scenes into one, it's like a crescendo almost.
Yes.
And it's just going up and up and up until you get to that boom.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to mention that the editing effects that they have within the movie, and I'm talking about like when the cops got killed, right? Like you can visually see like the blood gushing out of the woman's cop neck. Like I think that was excellent editing in terms of the fact that it made it seem real.
Yeah.
Right? Like he looked at her and it's like, oh dang. And I felt that I was in the car because of that blood like coming out like that, you know, and or when the narcotics cop shot Mike on the train, you could see the look in Mike's eyes where Mike's like, yo, why'd you shoot me? But Andre's like, what the F? Are we allowed to curse?
No.
Okay.
We are a family-friendly podcast.
We are a family-friendly podcast. So So the detective Andre, he was like, "What the f? What the f?" And then you could see the blood that's gushing out of Mike.
Yeah.
And the one part where they had the eye gouge, or he got shot in the eye. That was intense, and I love that aspect of the editing of the movie.
Yeah, and that's the part where I really enjoyed, and that's kind of what I mean by letting it breathe. Because a lot of movies have been like, move the car, jumped in the cop car, backed up, got back in the car. You know, like that pacing's too fast. But the fact that he was able to get in the car, he sat, he turned, he saw the blood gushing, he's realizing the impact of what he did. And we're realizing the impact of what he did, that people's lives are actually ending. Because with action movies, it's like, you get shot, they fall, you move on, you know? And with that, you're seeing the impact. You're ending someone's life for money, you know? And that's the effect of editing and great pacing for me. Again, it's creating those emotional ties. We're starting to relate with Mike of like, oh, dang, he shouldn't have done that. Oh, man, he's realizing what he did. Oh, man, I feel so bad for him. Oh, no, he got tangled with the wrong crowd. Oh, my God. Like, so that is like, that's the pacing that I'm talking about. That's the end of your seat. That's the never-ending motion, yet having good pacing that created a really great editing moment. So it knocked that star out of the park for me, 100%. So now we got to get into our disagreements. Our disagreements, because I feel strongly about plot and dialogue, and I'm very surprised you gave it a star. So I kind of want to hear why for you. And you can pick whether you start with plot or dialogue.
Okay, so I'll start with dialogue. The dialogue is coherent with what you expect a cop movie to be. Right. So that goes into the being in the line of fire, being shot and killed in the line of duty. It's not just roses and daisies. Yeah. Right? Or it's not just like, how do I explain it? It's not just like you said in some action films, they get shot, right? And then, all right, next scene, move on. Yeah. Right? You can actually feel when someone was hurting or someone felt pain by the way they were speaking the dialogue. You expect the cops to have shallow remarks like they did with Detective Andre. You know, a lot of them, oh, aren't you being investigated by IA? Right? Or, I thought you were the cop killer. The cop killer. Yeah. You know, I thought you were the guy. I thought you were him. Right? So it's a lot of shallow remarks, and I don't think, and maybe it's just my military view of it. Yeah. But like, even though they're cops, right? And so cops always help out other cops. It's just certain, I guess, precincts or different, like, oh, I'm better than you, or I'm we're the better precinct, essentially like the military, right? Yeah. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard. We talk mess about each other all the time. I will talk about someone that's in the Marines eating crayons. But if you haven't served...
Eating crayons is crazy. I'm sorry, because it's like,
I'm serious.
Eating crayons.
It's a joke within the military community.
I didn't know that.
If someone says that, then they haven't put their right hand up, and they haven't served, and then I'm gonna look at them kind of crazy, like, hey, yo, he's doing a lot more than you. Yeah. You know, you could talk about the Navy all you want, call them seamen, whatever. You can call them chair force, whatever. Oh, boy. But at the end of the day, that's my brother, right? Yeah. And if we're going into war, we're going to jar. We're going to have that dialogue, but I got your back.
Yeah, when it gets down to it.
When it gets to nitty gritty, we're there. We're one team. Yeah. And that's what I saw in 21 Bridges, and that's what I loved about it. You could see that jargon between the cops and how they were talking to each other. Yeah.
And I like the way that you kind of intertwine like dialogue and plot together. Because the two elements for me were dependent on one another. I know that you're talking about the unity of the military and all of that, and that kind of adding to the storytelling. So that kind of goes into the plot of it all. But the reason I didn't give plot a star, because I went back and forth for a while, it honestly came down to the fact that we've seen this story before, and I don't think it didn't do it creatively enough for me where I can be like, you know what, it's unique to this story. It didn't do anything new. Again, we've seen this, a bunch of bad cops and one good one, me against the world. I'm starting to see the corrupt system. Oh man, I gotta fix the system. We've seen that before. It's just, I see the unity, but I lacked the sympathy for it. I really did. I really lacked the sympathy for it. So I'm like, okay, and
Right.
okay, and I think that's why I ended up just not giving it to it, because I had the okay and mentality.
Okay.
Like, okay,
Got
and
it.
so what? So we're moving drugs because, oh, okay. It just didn't do it for me. And I think the other part of it was that they wrote these characters into the movie. Like Keith David, for example. You have an acting giant in this movie.
At the very beginning.
Well, no, throughout. I mean,
Well,
at least
yeah,
throughout to the middle, at least.
The chief, yeah.
Right. So you have this character into the movie. It's Keith David, for crying out loud. And he's minimized to, it doesn't even feel like a supporting character, like something less than that.
Honestly.
With the amount of lines that he had, with his impact. And I will say his impact in the final cut. Because we know that editing goes through a strenuous process, that there are multiple versions of this movie. And the way they set it up, I figured they were going to make him like a temporary father figure for Andre. But because I didn't end up in the end film, it's just like, and his character was here because we paid Keith David because it could have been an extra at that point.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I get that.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so that the use of the FBI in this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, we're the FBI, we're with the mayor, okay, and like it's just like, and you're here because like I don't care. And the one thing I liked the use of the FBI was when the his white counterpart used the line. And so, yeah, the narc and the trigger, and Chadwick goes, you better enunciate every word when you say trigger to me.
Right.
And I said, okay, oh, that's funny. We got jokes. Great. Chadwick Boseman's funny. But it was just like, okay, and that was just the end goal for me. And with the dialogue, we're setting up Chadwick Boseman's character, Andre, to be this mastermind, this detective, this Sherlock Holmes. I can solve any mystery using forensics, like using all of that, right? And for the mystery to be solved by Mike in a conversation bothered me, which is why I didn't give it to dialogue. I'm like, you're setting up Chadwick to be this big old person, this big smart person, and then for Mike to solve it himself and just say it out loud. Why do we need Chadwick? And I hate that for the story. And that's kind of what I wanted more, which is why I was going back and forth with attraction, but I ended up giving it to it and moved it down to dialogue, was because I wish he would have dove deeper into his mindset. Because Chadwick, I'm going to stop saying Chadwick, Andre asked questions and would say, how did Kelly get there so fast?
Right.
How do we know this? Like, he's asking the right questions, but because we didn't get the answers from him, it bothered me.
Okay.
It bothered me a lot, which is why I did not give it for dialogue, and I definitely didn't give it for plot.
I think one more thing that I would give it for plot is because the plot of the movie was basically a manhunt. The plot of the movie was basically a manhunt, and it was coherent, and it basically brought the story to why the movie was named 21 Bridges. So being the fact that I've never heard of New York City ever shutting down besides the pandemic.
Correct.
Right? So for what, a maximum of 4 hours?
Yeah, I think about 6. 5, because it was 12 to 5, give or take.
12 to 5, give or take.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand, like, and maybe it's because they didn't show show it.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna get to in a minute. That
I see it, right? But they didn't show the impact that it would have on New York itself.
Correct.
If they shut down Manhattan, we're talking
Correct.
Times Square, we're talking the Big Apple, literally shut down, nobody in or out.
Right. They shut down New York, all 21 bridges, and like I kid you not, I gotta keep saying, I'm like, they should shut down all 21 bridges. Okay. We're just in a regular, because the moment he finished that line, he said, shut down 21 bridges, shut down the 3 tunnels, shut down this, shut down that. After they showed that initial shutdown and they established a perimeter, the impact was not shown after that. We were just in another random city doing a goose chase after that. Like, yeah. I kind of wish that like maybe there was some B-roll, some overhead shots where we're literally seeing the circle get tighter in New York, or we're
traffic that's building up.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing buildups. And again, that buildup would maybe have created an actual perimeter around New York, like around Manhattan. Like it would have been creative. And again, it would have added to that crescendo, that added to the tension of it all, or that, the tension of it. But it just didn't. It just felt like we were running through a small city. And if you don't know New York like that, it's like, okay, we're in a city now. But I mean, there's movies like, you and I joke because we're watching the Fast and Furious franchise together right now. Right. And I think it was the second one.
Yeah.
And they're doing this chase in that movie. And I'm born and raised in Miami. I'm like, oh, they're in Homestead. That's exit 1. I know that Golden Corral. But then it cuts to Miami Beach. Why are they in Miami Beach? It doesn't make sense. So maybe if you're a New Yorker, that makes sense. But a non-native to New York, I'm like, it's just another random city. And it didn't feel special enough, didn't feel unique enough to where it felt like I can tell where the perimeter is getting closed.
That makes sense. And now saying it out loud, I actually came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Like I think because like, you know, when you're doing the review, you're thinking, you're talking to yourself, but when you talk about it and someone else makes another point, and then
it's like, dang it, remove the star, erase.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Well, that's why I was really curious. I was like, so why did you give it a star? Because normally, and it's funny, you and I are on the same page with a lot of movies. It's like oh man, this is not going to be a great movie. Oh, we're sitting here wasting our time. So when you gave it specifically to plot and dialogue, I was like, what did you see that I did not see? In my slowed down fast version, maybe it was too fast. I should have put it at 1.5, not 2. Maybe that was my fault. But okay, so now I'm curious because I was going back and forth on cinematography.
Okay.
And I ended up not giving it to it.
I didn't give it cinematography.
Yeah,
either.
And I want to know. I'm curious for yours why, because it provided a lot of really curious elements for me, like in the sake of visuals,
right?
Except for the perimeter part, but overall, it just didn't do enough for me to give it a star.
I don't think it had that oomph.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, so we're doing the manhunt. We're going, and you know, it's keeping you on the edge of your seat, but maybe because it's at night and it's not, you know, lights, you're not seeing the Big Apple, you're not seeing, you know, you're not seeing Macy's and all that. Maybe that is what drove me to like, okay, maybe I'm not seeing enough of New York.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like, this is New York we're talking about, right? You know, where the city shines bright. The city never sleeps, you know? And so I'm trying to like picture myself in this area. I couldn't actually see it.
Yeah.
You know, like the visual effects, like the editing part is good, right? But it just, I don't know. It didn't have that
extra oomph
to
give it,
to go over the hump, you know.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. Like I said, we were missing that visual of the perimeter. We were missing that creeping and closing circle around our prey type thing. The only reason I kind of went back and forth about giving it to it because I saw this visual the second time watching it where it was like New York and NYPD is like a hive of bees to me. It's funny, at the funeral when they were bringing the casket out, you see them all salute at the same time and going from black to white when their hats go up type thing. And I'm like, these are really cool visuals. This is dope. when the cars are zooming in and out of the city, it felt like bees just zooming around a hive, zooming to protect the hive, basically type energy. And I'm like, that's really cool, to the point where there's a shot where 3 cars come parked diagonally, 1, 2, and 3, and the hum of the car feels like the buzzing of a bee type energy. But with Chadwick's character, it's funny. It's like he became a spider in this web, in this hive of bees, practically intertwining this web, creating this web around these bees, and unintentionally it felt like trapping certain bees in his trap. You know, like it felt like he accidentally stumbled upon. It felt like Captain McKenna, which was J.K. Simmons' role, accidentally trapping all these other characters. Detective Burns, like accidentally grabbing them and then realizing, oh, that's why I don't feel right about these people. This is why they're getting trapped in my web. Like, this is why I don't feel a part, you know? And it felt interesting, because at the end of the day, almost everyone who got trapped in his web ended up dying, sadly, except for Burns.
Except for Burns, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, yo. That's why I called him a spider, because more often than not, if you land on the web, you're dead. More often than not.
And Burns, if we're going to use that analogy, Burns really landed on the web.
Correct. Herself. Jumped on it. 100%.
When she gave him the phone,
mm-hmm.
that was
hook,
line, and
stupid.
sinker.
That was
right there.
Stupid.
But I think he might have had compassion for her, because he saw the girl on her phone, the little girl,
the daughter,
the daughter, and maybe it's something in him that reverted back to when he was a kid, and his father, his father died. I do want to make the point, though, that I love how he's the guy to kill all those that kill cops, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, he becomes a cop killer himself.
Correct.
Correct. That was just interesting. And was that out of justice? Was that out of defense? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm not even gonna lie to you. It caught me off guard when the other detectives showed up at the house. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. I feel like that particular scene, it just kind of, it was just kind of like a placer in a sense. It's like, all right, so we already got the manhunt. Now we got the conspiracy, but now these cops just showing up out of nowhere. How did they know he was going to be there?
And there's a part of me that, like, I just feel like once you have an operation like this, the moment that J.K. Simmons, Captain McKenna said, yeah, I have a visitor, I feel like you have words like that kind of trigger conversation. Like, my family, if I send a specific word in my family group chat, the cops are being called. Like, we all have like a secret word or secret terminology that in regular conversation sounds normal. Right. However, if you have no idea what that means, but my family hears that word in that context, they're calling the police. It's just like a normal thing. So I think the moment he said, yeah, I gotta go, I have a visitor, it was like a uh-oh. Hive, go protect the king bee, protect the queen bee. We gotta go.
There's no king bee.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna call J.K. Simmons a queen, okay? You know what I mean? Like,
he could.
That is a strong white man. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. He is a king. So he's a king bee today. But yeah, it's just, I enjoyed that scene, but I do agree with you. Like, the moment that he became the thing that he's been hunting this whole time. Yeah. It's just, I hadn't considered that. Now that you kind of say it, I'm like, oh, wow. Oof. And I think that's kind of like going back into a theming. It's really going back into your virtues and values and the hypocrisy of it all. Right. Going back into like, okay, I hunt cop killers. I don't shoot without just cause, which he did because he never shot first. That stayed the value the entire time, which I appreciate in the storytelling. But to become the thing that you hunted is just, again, that's something that we've seen before, but I like that perspective on this film a lot.
But maybe because he had a visitor, he wasn't the hunter anymore. He became the huntee.
Yeah. The moment he saw him at his house, like, oh man, he got me, gal. He got me.
Right.
I think we only have we have acting to still talk about, sound, and it factor. And I know we are running out of time here. So let's go ahead and go through sound because we've talked about it a lot at this point. But I ended up giving a star for sound because to me the soundtrack was beautiful. I've talked about it, how it helped with the pacing and everything. And for me, it's just like the score kind of gave you the energy of I'm the hero, but at what cost?
Okay.
And it's very similar score-wise to me. The same kind of thing with Red Tails. I don't know if you've seen Red Tails with the Tuskegee Airmen.
I have not. That is one I need to see.
Ooh, we need to watch that. We will review that because I love that movie a lot. But with that, one of the ending scores, once a character passes, it felt like, yeah, we beat him. We beat the German Nazis. We beat them all, but it's like, at what cost? Like, was it worth what we lost?
Right.
You know? And it's like, for this, it's like, is it worth losing the dignity of the badge?
Right.
Like, more than the people. Like, is it worth losing the validity of what we stand behind?
Of why we're doing this.
Right.
The reason that we became a cop.
Like, is it worth it?
So the way I scored the sound, I guess I was looking more at the music aspect, and now that you mention it, the music did help, like with the movie in terms of keeping the pace, but that's all it did. Me. That's all it did.
Yeah, it wasn't unique. I will give you that.
It wasn't unique. It wasn't like an original soundtrack or anything that I guess was memorable. So it's just like eerie moment, eerie music.
Yeah.
Right. Suspense moment, suspense music. Right.
It did the job that it was supposed to.
You're at the drug dealer house. You hear rap music. Right. It did the job.
Yeah.
No more, no less.
Right.
That's why I did not give it a star.
That's
because
fair.
It wasn't as compelling to me. It was just like, okay, the music is because of this scene.
Right. So like it's not like it's compelling like the Avengers or even the Black Panther soundtrack because
exactly.
It's something different, it's something new, and you're creating an environment that's unique to this music.
Exactly. Like,
so yeah, I get that.
Like in Black Panther, like since you mentioned it, when they're coming into Wakanda, and from the opening scene, and they're coming into Wakanda, that dun-dun-dun, like you hear that. If you hear that randomly, like that resonates like, oh, Black Panther.
Correct.
Right. We are home, my king.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I didn't get that from 21 Bridges. That's why I didn't.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. And for me, when it comes down to it factor, didn't get it for me only because to me, with this movie, it's limited watchability. Like it's a limited rewatchability. Like I said, when you watch it twice, it's like, okay, got it.
Right.
You're done. You don't have to watch it anymore. And I think movies that don't have that unique watchability, because again, we could watch Endgame all day. Because if there's a hype, there's an excitement, and yeah, you might fast forward through the stories the more you watch it, but those action sequences, there's something about them that makes you want to watch them over and over and over again. A recent show that has that is X-Men 97, actually, which you should probably watch.
That's on my list. I'm doing my Marvel marathon, so right now I'm on Miss Marvel. So
nice. Okay. So, when you get to X-Men 97, please let me know because I kind of want to watch a specific episode. If you know, you know. I want to watch episode 5 with him specifically.
Okay.
And I just can't wait for you to realize what that means. I love that for you that you have no idea what that means yet.
Well, I mean, I know that's Professor X. And
no,
that's not Professor.
No, it's
X.
not. No, okay. I was like, you have no idea what that means.
Let me stop.
Yeah, correct. Like, don't even try to guess because episode 5 for anyone who has seen it, it's like a oh. So when you watch it, please let me know. I kind of want to just watch it.
But yeah, for the it factor, like you said, it's no rewatchability. It's not memorable. It's a good movie, but it's not something that like, oh, I want to watch this over and over and over again. You know, it's just because it's an action movie. It's a cop movie. They're a dime a dozen. We've seen those a million and one times. We've seen the dirty cops. We've seen the good cop. We've seen the drugs.
Yes.
It's no uniqueness.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't give it factor.
Yeah. So overall, what was your final rating?
I think my rating was a 3.5. But I think now I might change it to a 3. Yeah,
I ended up rating it like a 2.5 out of 5, and it hurts me because with such a great cast, like I love J.K. Simmons. We know him from Whiplash. We know him as James Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man franchise. Like, we know him in a lot of movies. We know Chadwick Boseman. He has a great acting prowess. We know Keith David.
Right.
All these different actors put together in a subpar film does not sit right with me. So when I finally calculated it, I said, oh. So, and realistically, a 2.5 out of 5. And the 10 score is like a what? It's a 5 out of 10, realistically?
5 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 10. And I'm like, ay. And I kind of want to go look through their projects and see, do they have any other projects that rate that low? Mm-hmm. Because I'm just very surprised that, again, all these actors together created a 5 out of 10 kind of movie.
Well, even the actors, the main actors were good. They did their part.
Yeah.
The supporting actors, I just Keith David, I feel like he could have been somebody else.
Underused.
You know, definitely underused.
Wasted the paycheck. Hikey, I hate that.
And even the black guy from FBI.
Yeah.
I've seen him before. I can't remember where I've seen him, but I think it was Empire.
Yes. Yeah.
He was in Empire.
He was in
right?
Empire,
Okay.
Yes.
I can't remember, and I know I've seen him in other films, but I feel like he wasn't used as well either. And
they set him up to be like he was this guy, you know?
Right,
Twan, Dre.
Twan, right.
I'm like, where's the relationship?
Right, exactly.
It didn't move past that set of dialogue. So, like I said, it just, they didn't use the characters properly. It's just, it's a shame.
And it's funny how, like, you know, you watch a movie the first time, you're like, wow, that was a really good movie. But then, like, when you actually just sit down and actually critique the movie and you're just going over things, you know, like how your scorecard is. Yeah. You're like, it's not that great of a movie.
It's not, but it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
And that's why audiences, there's always the audience score always cracks me up sometimes. They're like, I don't understand why critics gave it a 54. If you look at the elements of the film, you can see why it got a 54. Because Absolutely. We can't give it 5 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 just because it's funny.
Right.
We can't give it a 10 out of 10 just because it's entertaining. You have to actually look at it. I'm like, in the elements of film, did it do well? And more often than not, the answer is no. And I hate that. But yeah, overall, 2.5 out of 5. And you gave it you ended up a 3 out of 5,
3
right?
3 out of 5, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I mean, it's a good one-time watch.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it before, I would recommend watching it because it is good.
It is good.
It's fun. It's entertaining.
Correct.
It's entertaining, but it's just like, and like that's my end of the movie. Okay, and that's just gonna be my thing for this movie. Okay, and whatever. But as we wrap up this episode, remember that great movies are meant to be shared, even though the credits may roll and the movie talk never stops. Got thoughts on the show or want to share your own critique? We're all ears. Your opinions are like the post-credit scenes to the podcast. They add that extra little spark to keep the story going. Let's keep that movie buzz alive and continue this awesome conversation together. If you want to dive deeper into movie conversations or discussions, follow me on social media at MoviesxMelanin on Instagram and all social media platforms. And where can they find you, Mark?
You can find me on Facebook at Mark Hodges II. The second is 2 capital I's. Or Instagram, Prince_Mark D.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, Mark. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Varshana. I appreciate you for having me. This was fun.
This was a lot of fun. Again. Oh, yeah. So Mark will definitely be back for most likely a Fast and Furious episode.
Absolutely.
A Bad Boys episode, because I have not seen it. And as much as funny as I've made it about like Red Tails and stuff, I have not seen Bad Boys. I did not watch Fast and Furious, and he is educating me right now. I know. Shame. Look, the bell. Shame. And it's fine. I am shameful. I will give that to myself. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.